Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started ringing. He put down his cup and walked quickly to the bridge of the starship Starbound. His crew was already at their stations looking worried. "What's going on?" Jake asked. Lisa Chen, his communications officer, turned around with wide eyes. "Captain, we're picking up a signal. It's not from any human ship or station. I think it's from aliens." Jake felt his heart beat faster. After 20 years of space travel, humans had never found intelligent alien life. They had discovered planets with simple plants and animals, but nothing that could build spaceships or send radio signals. "Are you sure it's not some kind of mistake?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "No, sir. The signal is definitely artificial. It's repeating the same pattern over and over. And Captain, it sounds like they're in trouble." Jake sat down in his captain's chair. Put it on the speakers. The bridge filled with strange sounds. It was like music mixed with whale songs, but there was something desperate about it. The ship's computer was already working to translate the message. "Translation complete," the computer announced. Message begins, "Help us. Please help us. Anyone who can hear this message, we beg you to help. Our world is dying. Our people are being killed. We are peaceful. We have never hurt anyone, but they came from the stars and they are destroying everything. We offer everything we have to anyone who will save us. Please come to the Kepler system. Hurry. There is not much time. Help us." The bridge was silent for a long moment. Jake looked at his crew. They all had the same shocked expression on their faces. "How far away is the Kepler system?" Jake asked his navigator, Pete Clark. Pete checked his instruments. "About 6 days at maximum speed, Captain." Jake stood up. "Lisa, send an immediate message to Earth Command. Tell them we've received an alien distress call and request permission to investigate. Pete, set course for the Kepler system, but don't engage engines yet. I want authorization first." While they waited for Earth's response, Dr. Amy Foster, the ship's science officer, studied the alien message. She was excited and worried at the same time. "Captain, this is incredible," Amy said. "The aliens describe themselves as a water-based species. They've never experienced war or violence. Their entire civilization is built around peace and cooperation." "What about the attackers?" Jake asked. Amy's face became dark. "They call them the Krovar. From what I can understand, the Krovar are a military empire that conquers other planets. They've been doing this for thousands of years across the galaxy." 2 hours later, Earth Command responded. Admiral Patricia Hayes appeared on the screen. She looked serious but determined. "Captain Morrison, this is the moment we've been preparing for. First contact with alien intelligence, and they need our help. I'm authorizing a rescue mission." "Just the Starbound, Admiral?" Jake asked. "No, this is too important. I'm sending the heavy cruiser Terra's Wrath with a full Marine unit. Colonel Ryan Brooks will be in command of the military forces. You'll also have diplomat Carlos Rivera to handle first contact procedures." Jake nodded. "When do we leave?" "The Terra's Wrath will meet you at the halfway point. Don't wait for them. Get to that system as fast as you can and assess the situation. We need to know what we're dealing with." The next 6 days passed slowly. The alien distress call kept repeating, but it was getting weaker. Amy worked day and night to learn everything she could about the aliens and their attackers. "Captain, I'm worried," Amy told Jake on the 5th day. "The signal strength is dropping. Either their transmitter is failing or there are fewer of them left to save," Jake finished. When they finally reached the Kepler system, what they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp. The aliens' planet was beautiful. It was covered in blue and green oceans with floating cities that looked like giant flowers. But above the planet, huge dark ships were firing down at the surface. Explosions of light showed where the alien cities were being destroyed. "My God," Lisa whispered. "We're too late." "No," Jake said firmly. "We're not too late. There are still cities intact. Lisa, try to contact the aliens. Tell them help has arrived." It took several minutes, but finally a new voice came through the speakers. It was gentle and musical, but full of sadness. "Unknown ship, this is Elder Zephyr of the Villani people. Are you the ones who answered our call for help? This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human starship Starbound. We received your distress signal and came as fast as we could." There was a long pause. Then the alien spoke again and Jake could hear hope in the voice. "Humans, we have never heard of your species. Are you warriors? Can you fight the Krovar?" Jake looked around his bridge. His small exploration ship had basic weapons, but nothing that could match the massive alien warships attacking the planet. "We have help coming," Jake said. "But first we need to understand the situation. How many of your people are left?" "Millions are already dead. Elder Zephyr replied. We have perhaps half our population remaining, scattered across our floating cities. The Crovar want our biotechnology. They are taking our scientists and killing everyone else. Amy leaned over to Jake. Captain, we need to get closer to study their technology. If we're going to help them, we need to understand what we're fighting. Jake made a decision that would change human history forever. Elder Zephyr, we're going to help you. Can you hide us from the Crovar while we study the situation? We can mask your ship's energy signature. But please hurry. The Crovar grow stronger every day and we grow weaker. As the Starbound moved closer to the planet, Jake sent another message to Earth Command. Admiral Hayes, the situation is worse than we thought. We're facing an entire invasion fleet, but we're not backing down. Humanity's first test in the galaxy starts now. The crew of the Starbound prepared for the most important mission in human history. They were about to discover that sometimes the galaxy's most peaceful species needed its most dangerous ones to survive. Jake Morrison stared at the main screen as his ship moved through the debris field around the alien planet. Pieces of destroyed cities floated in space like metal flowers torn apart by a storm. The sight made his stomach feel sick. Captain, I'm detecting life signs in one of the larger floating structures, Amy Foster reported from her science station. It looks like some kind of underwater city that was pulled to the surface. Take us closer, but keep us hidden, Jake ordered. As they approached, the alien city became clearer on the screen. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. The structures curved and flowed like coral reefs with tubes and chambers filled with water. Beautiful patterns of light moved through the transparent walls. Incoming transmission, Lisa Chen announced. The screen changed to show their first view of an alien. Elder Zephyr was tall and slender, with smooth blue-green skin that seemed to shimmer. Large, gentle eyes looked at them with a mixture of hope and fear. The alien's movements were graceful and flowing like swimming through air. Captain Morrison, Elder Zephyr said in a voice that sounded like singing. Welcome to Aquatica. I wish we could meet under better circumstances. Elder Zephyr, we're honored to meet you, Jake replied. But we need to understand what we're fighting. Can you tell us about the Crovar? The alien's expression became sad. They appeared in our system 3 months ago. At first, we tried to communicate with them. We offered to share our knowledge of biotechnology and ocean farming. We thought all intelligent beings would want peace. Amy leaned forward with interest. What happened when you tried to talk to them? They laughed at us, Elder Zephyr said quietly. Their leader told us that weakness deserves destruction. They said we were insects to be stepped on. Then they started bombing our cities. Jake felt anger building in his chest. What do they want from you? Our technology for growing food and water. With it, they could feed their armies on any planet. They are taking our scientists to their ships and killing everyone else. Captain Morrison, we have never hurt any living being. We don't understand why anyone would want to cause pain. The screen showed images of the Crovar ships. They were massive black vessels that looked like giant insects with metal shells. Each ship was at least 10 times larger than the Starbound. How many ships do they have? Jake asked. We count 37 around our planet. But Elder Zephyr says more are coming from their homeworlds, the alien replied. Pete Clark whistled softly. Captain, our ship has weapons, but nothing that could scratch those monsters. Just then, Lisa picked up another transmission. Captain, it's from one of the Crovar ships. They're trying to contact us. Jake straightened in his chair. Put them through. The screen changed to show a creature that made Jake's blood run cold. The Crovar looked like a cross between a giant insect and a shark. Its skin was black and covered in armor plates. Red eyes glowed with hatred and hunger. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. Unknown vessel, this is Warlord Thane of the Crovar hegemony. You will identify yourself and state your business in this system. Jake took a deep breath. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration vessel Starbound. We received a distress call and came to investigate. The alien's laugh was horrible. Humans. Another weak species that thinks it can interfere with Crovar business. You have one chance to leave this system alive. Go now or join the fish people in death. We're not leaving, Jake said firmly. These people asked for help and we're going to give it to them. Warlord Thane's red eyes seemed to glow brighter. Foolish creatures. Your little ship will be destroyed in minutes. The Crovar have conquered 1,000 worlds. No species has ever defeated us. There's a first time for everything, Jake replied. The Crovar leader made a sound like metal breaking. You will learn the price of defying the hegemony. Prepare to die, humans. The transmission ended. Jake turned to his crew. Well, that went better than expected. Lisa looked at him with surprise. Captain, he just threatened to kill us all. Yes, but he also gave us important information. He's arrogant and overconfident. He thinks we're weak because we're smaller. That's his mistake. Amy was studying the readings from the Crovar ship. Captain, I'm detecting some interesting energy patterns from their vessels. They appear to be partially biological. The ships are alive. What do you mean? Jake asked. The hull, the weapons, even the engines seem to be grown rather than built. It's like each ship is a giant living creature covered in metal armor. Pete looked up from his navigation station. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting more ships approaching. Looks like the cavalry is arriving. On the screen, they could see the human heavy cruiser Terra's Wrath approaching with two smaller escort ships. The Terra's Wrath was humanity's most advanced warship, but even it looked tiny compared to the Crovar vessels. Incoming message from Terra's Wrath, Lisa announced. Colonel Ryan Brooks appeared on screen. He was a tough-looking man with scars on his face and steel in his eyes. Behind him, Jake could see Marines preparing their equipment. Captain Morrison, this is Colonel Brooks. We've been monitoring your communications. What's our tactical situation? Jake quickly explained what they had learned about the Crovar and the Vellani. Colonel Brooks listened carefully, his expression growing more serious. So we're facing an enemy that's never been defeated, with ships 10 times our size, and they think we're weak insects. Brooks summarized. Sounds like Tuesday. Jake smiled despite the situation. What's your assessment, Colonel? They're big, they're strong, and they're used to winning through brute force. But Captain, I've been fighting bullies my whole life. The bigger they are, the more noise they make when they fall. Elder Zephyr spoke up from his transmission. Colonel Brooks, I must warn you. The Crovar have weapons that can destroy entire cities in minutes. They have never lost a battle. Perhaps you should call for more ships. Brooks shook his head. Elder Zephyr, you've never met humans before. We come from a planet that's been trying to kill us since we first stood upright. We've fought wars, survived ice ages, tamed diseases, and turned the worst environments in our solar system into homes. The Crovar think they're apex predators. The Colonel's smile was not pleasant. They're about to meet the species that invented the concept. Jake felt a surge of pride in his species. Colonel, what's the plan? First, we need to understand their technology better. Dr. Foster, can you find a weakness in those biological ships? Amy nodded eagerly. I'll need samples and close-up scans. That means getting very close to their vessels. Leave that to my Marines, Brooks said. We specialize in going places we're not wanted. Elder Zephyr looked confused. I don't understand. How can you hope to defeat ships so much larger than yours? Jake looked at the peaceful alien with sympathy. Elder Zephyr, you come from a world where everyone cooperates and shares resources. We come from a world where everything competes to survive. We've learned some very hard lessons about fighting. But the Crovar are warriors, the alien protested. No, Colonel Brooks corrected. The Crovar are conquerors. They're used to fighting species that don't fight back. They've never met warriors. As if summoned by his words, alarms started ringing throughout the ship. Lisa's voice was urgent. Captain, 6 Crovar ships are breaking formation and heading straight for us. Jake sat back in his captain's chair and smiled. Well, gentlemen, it looks like class is in session. Time to teach the galaxy what humans do best. The 6 Crovar ships moved toward the human fleet like giant metal sharks hunting small fish. Each enemy vessel was the size of a city block, covered in thick armor and bristling with weapons. The human ships looked like toys by comparison. They're coming in a straight line, Pete Clark observed from his navigation station. No fancy formations, just brute force. Jake Morrison studied the tactical display. That's their first mistake. Lisa, open a channel to Colonel Brooks. The Colonel's face appeared on screen. Behind him, Marines were checking their weapons and equipment. Ready when you are, Captain. Colonel, they're attacking exactly like you predicted. Straightforward, no subtlety. Brooks grinned. Perfect. Time to show them why humans rule the food chain. All ships execute pattern Delta. What happened next would have been impossible for any other species in the galaxy. The human ships suddenly split apart and began moving in completely unpredictable directions. The starbound dove under the Crovar formation, while Terra's Wrath climbed above it. The escort ships curved around the sides in wide arcs. Impossible, came a roar from Warlord Thane's ship. Hold formation and destroy them. But the Crovar ships were too big to change direction quickly. They continued forward in their straight line while the human ships danced around them like fighters dodging a charging bull. Firing. Solution acquired, announced Lieutenant Kate Johnson from Terra's Wrath. Target locked. Fire! Brooks commanded. The human ships opened fire with everything they had. Their weapons were smaller than the Crovar guns, but they hit their targets while the enemy ships were still trying to turn around. Explosions bloomed across the black hulls of the alien vessels. Minimal damage, Amy Foster reported. Their armor is too thick for our standard weapons. Then we get closer, Jake decided. All ships, prepare for boarding action. Elder Zephyr's voice came through the communication system. Captain Morrison, what are you doing? Your ships are too small to ram their vessels. We're not ramming them, Jake explained. We're boarding them. The human ships moved even closer to the Crovar vessels, so close that the alien weapons couldn't target them without hitting their own ships. Docking tubes extended from the human ships and punched through the Crovar hulls like metal spears. Breach successful, reported Sergeant Tony Martinez as he led the first boarding party. Moving into enemy ship now. What the Marines found inside the Crovar ships amazed them. The corridors were hot, humid, and filled with toxic gases that would kill most species in minutes. But humans had evolved on a planet with active volcanoes, poisonous swamps, and deadly weather patterns. Just like home, Martinez joked as his squad moved through the alien ship wearing only basic breathing masks. The Crovar crew was completely unprepared for boarders. They had conquered peaceful species for so long that they had forgotten what real fighters looked like. The human Marines moved through the ship like a force of nature, using tactics the aliens had never seen. They're in the walls, screamed a Crovar warrior as Marines crawled through maintenance shafts and attacked from unexpected angles. Contact front, shouted Corporal Dan Wilson as his demolition team encountered a group of Crovar soldiers. The aliens were bigger and stronger than humans, but they fought like animals, using only brute force and fury. The humans fought like humans. They used cover, coordinated their attacks, and turned the ship's own systems against the crew. Wilson's team planted explosives on critical systems while other Marines captured the bridge. Enemy ship disabled, Martinez reported. Crovar crew is in full retreat. But the real surprise came when Dr. Amy Foster studied the captured ship's biological systems. Working with samples from the living hull, she made a discovery that would change everything. Captain, this is incredible, Amy transmitted from her mobile lab. The ship's biological components are all connected through a central nervous system. It's like the entire vessel is one giant organism. Can you use that against them? Jake asked. Better than that. I can create a virus that will target their specific biological signatures. It won't hurt any other life forms, but it will cause their ships to literally fall apart. While Amy worked on her biological weapon, the Marines continued their boarding actions. Each captured ship revealed more about Crovar weaknesses. They were strong and brutal, but they had no creativity in combat. They always attacked the same way, used the same tactics, and expected their enemies to run away in fear. They're not warriors, Colonel Brooks observed after studying combat recordings. They're bullies. They've been picking on peaceful species for so long, they've forgotten how to fight someone who fights back. Lieutenant Kate Johnson discovered another weakness during her assault on a Crovar command ship. Colonel, their communication system is primitive. They use simple, direct orders with no backup plans. If we disrupt their command structure, the whole fleet becomes confused. How do we do that? Brooks asked. Kate smiled. We speak their language. Using captured Crovar communication equipment, the humans began broadcasting false orders throughout the enemy fleet. Ships received contradictory commands, were told to attack each other, and became completely confused about their mission. This is Warlord Thane, roared the enemy commander. All ships ignore false transmissions and attack the human vessels. But it was too late. The Crovar fleet was already in chaos. Some ships were attacking others, some were retreating, and some were trying to follow multiple contradictory orders at once. Elder Zephyr watched the battle from his floating city with amazement. How are they doing this? The humans are so small compared to the Crovar. Amy Foster, monitoring the battle from her lab, answered, Elder Zephyr, humans come from what we call a death world. Our planet has been trying to kill us for millions of years. We've survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, predators, and countless wars. We've learned to adapt, to think creatively, and to turn any situation to our advantage. But the Crovar are so much stronger, the alien protested. Strength isn't everything, Colonel Brooks replied over the communication channel. We've learned something the Crovar never had to learn. Sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the biggest or strongest. It's the smartest. As if to prove his point, Amy's biological weapon was ready. Captain, I've loaded the virus into our torpedo warheads. One hit on each ship should be enough to start a chain reaction. Jake gave the order, and the human ships launched their modified torpedoes. The biological virus spread through the Krovar ships like wildfire, attacking the living components that held the vessels together. What's happening to our ships? Warlord Thane demanded as his flagship began shaking apart. You're learning about human ingenuity, Jake Morrison replied. We don't just fight with weapons. We fight with our minds. One by one, the mighty Krovar warships began falling apart. Their biological hulls dissolved. Their living weapon systems died, and their organic engines stopped functioning. The ships that had terrorized 1,000 worlds were being destroyed by microscopic organisms created by one human scientist. Impossible, Thane screamed. The Krovar cannot be defeated. You just were, Colonel Brooks replied calmly. And this is just the beginning. As the last of the attacking Krovar ships drifted powerless in space, Elder Zephyr spoke with wonder in his voice. The humans have done something no species has ever done. They have defeated the Krovar. This is just round one, Jake Morrison said, looking at the main Krovar fleet still orbiting the planet. But now they know they're not fighting fish anymore. They're fighting sharks. Warlord Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the wreckage of 6 Krovar ships floating in space. His red eyes burned with fury and something he had never felt before in his 1,000 years of conquest. Fear. How is this possible? He demanded from his crew. No species has ever destroyed Krovar vessels. His tactical officer, a scarred veteran of many battles, studied the sensor readings. Commander, the humans used some kind of biological weapon. It attacked our ship's living systems and made them fall apart. Thane slammed his armored fist on the command console. Biological weapons? These humans are more cunning than we thought. Send a message to the hegemony. Request immediate reinforcements. How many ships, Commander? All of them. Meanwhile, on the human ships, Colonel Brooks was planning the next phase of the battle. He knew that the Krovar would call for help, and when those reinforcements arrived, humanity would be outnumbered by hundreds to one. We can't win a straight fight, he told his officers during a strategy meeting. But we don't have to. We just need to change the rules of the game. Captain Alex Turner, leader of the Marine Ground Forces, leaned forward. What did you have in mind, Colonel? Brooks smiled. We're going to do something the Krovar have never seen before. We're going to turn this entire star system into our weapon. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her biological samples. Colonel, I've been working with Elder Zephyr's scientists. Their biotechnology is incredible. They can create living organisms that can survive in space and grow on asteroid minerals. How does that help us? Asked Lieutenant Kate Johnson. Amy's eyes lit up with excitement. We can breed space-based life forms that will attach to Krovar ships and eat through their hulls. But more importantly, we can create organisms that will spread throughout the asteroid belt and turn every rock into a potential weapon. Engineer Pete Clark nodded enthusiastically. I've been studying the asteroid belt around this system. If we can place mining charges on the larger asteroids and use gravity assists, we can turn them into kinetic projectiles. A mountain-sized rock moving at orbital velocity will destroy any ship, no matter how big. Colonel Brooks looked at his team with pride. Gentlemen, ladies, this is why humans rule their home planet. When faced with a bigger predator, we don't just fight it. We change the entire environment to our advantage. Over the next 2 days, the humans worked with desperate energy. Marine teams led by Sergeant Tony Martinez established hidden bases on asteroids throughout the system. These bases were placed in locations that would be impossible for most species to survive. Areas with high radiation, extreme temperatures, and no atmosphere. This is perfect, Martinez reported from an asteroid base near the system's gas giant. The radiation here would kill a Krovar in minutes, but with our radiation suits we can work for hours. They'll never think to look for us here. Meanwhile, Amy Foster and the Villani scientists were creating hybrid organisms at an incredible pace, working in laboratories hidden inside the floating cities. They bred creatures that could live in the vacuum of space, reproduce rapidly, and specifically target Krovar biotechnology. It's working better than I hoped, Amy reported to Captain Morrison. The space organisms are multiplying exponentially. In 3 days, they'll be everywhere in this system. But the humans' greatest weapon was their understanding of psychology. Corporal Dan Wilson, working with the ship's computer, began analyzing Krovar communication patterns. "Captain, these aliens are nothing like us," Wilson reported. "They communicate through dominance displays and fear tactics. Their entire social structure is based on one leader giving orders and everyone else following without question." "Can we use that?" Jake Morrison asked. Wilson grinned. "Already am, sir. I've been intercepting their communications and inserting subtle changes. Nothing obvious, just small modifications that make their orders contradictory. They're starting to doubt their own command structure. The psychological warfare was more effective than anyone had expected. Krovar crews began questioning orders, fighting among themselves and losing confidence in their leadership. For a species that had never faced real opposition, the stress of fighting an unpredictable enemy was devastating. 3 days later, the Krovar reinforcements arrived. Jake Morrison watched the sensors with grim satisfaction as 200 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace. "Well," he said to his crew, "I guess it's time to see if our preparations worked." The Krovar fleet was enormous. It stretched across space like a dark cloud, each ship bristling with weapons and carrying thousands of warriors. Any other species in the galaxy would have surrendered immediately. "Human vessels," came a new voice over the communication system. "This is Supreme Commander Vex of the Krovar hegemony. You will surrender immediately or face the combined might of our entire fleet." Jake Morrison looked at Colonel Brooks, who nodded. "Supreme Commander Vex, this is Captain Morrison. We appreciate the offer, but we'll have to decline." There was a moment of silence. Then Vex's voice returned, filled with disbelief. "You refuse to surrender to 200 Krovar warships?" "That's correct." "Then you will die like the fools you are. All ships attack formation. Destroy every human vessel." But as the Krovar fleet moved into attack position, they discovered that the humans had been busy. The first sign of trouble came when several ships reported strange organisms attaching to their hulls. "What are these creatures?" demanded Supreme Commander Vex as his sensors showed thousands of small life forms covering his ship's exterior. "Those," Amy Foster replied over the communication channel, "are space barnacles, modified to eat Krovar biotechnology." The space organisms began consuming the living components of the Krovar ships. Unlike the virus that had worked quickly, these creatures ate slowly and steadily, weakening the ship's defenses and life support systems. But the real surprise came when the Krovar fleet tried to maneuver. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, human-controlled mining charges began detonating. Asteroids that had been quietly orbiting for millions of years suddenly became high-speed projectiles aimed directly at the enemy fleet. "Incoming rocks," screamed a Krovar tactical officer as his sensors detected dozens of asteroids moving at impossible speeds. "Rocks don't move that fast," Vex replied. "These ones do," Pete Clark announced from his engineering station. "We've been playing pool with your fleet and you're the balls." The asteroids crashed into the Krovar ships with devastating effect. Ships that could withstand energy weapons were crushed by the simple kinetic force of accelerated rock. The elegant formations of the enemy fleet became chaos as ships tried to dodge both space organisms and flying mountains. "This is impossible," Vex shouted. "How can rocks be weapons?" "Everything's a weapon if you're creative enough," Colonel Brooks replied. "Haven't you been paying attention?" Captain Alex Turner's voice came over the communication system from his asteroid base. "Colonel, enemy ships are trying to retreat to the outer system. Should we let them go?" "Negative. No one leaves until they agree to our terms." The Krovar ships that tried to retreat found their path blocked by more asteroids, more space organisms, and human marines who had somehow established fighting positions on nearly every large rock in the system. "How are they everywhere?" Vex demanded. "How can such a small force control an entire star system?" Elder Zephyr, who had been watching the battle with amazement, provided the answer. "Supreme Commander, you have never met a species like humanity. They come from a world where survival requires turning every challenge into an opportunity. You thought you were fighting a small fleet. You were actually fighting an entire planet's worth of evolutionary experience." As Krovar ships continued to fall apart from space organism damage and asteroid impacts, Supreme Commander Vex finally understood what his species was facing. These humans didn't just fight with ships and weapons. They fought with the environment itself, using creativity and intelligence that no Krovar could match. "What do you want?" Vex asked, his voice filled with defeat. Jake Morrison's response was simple. "We want you to leave, forever, and we want you to spread the word to every other Krovar fleet in the galaxy. The age of easy conquest is over. Supreme Commander Vex stared at the tactical display showing his fleet falling apart around him. Half his ships were crippled by space organisms, a quarter had been destroyed by asteroid impacts, and the rest were trapped by human forces that seemed to be everywhere at once. This is not possible, he muttered to himself. 200 ships cannot be defeated by 5. His tactical officer looked up from his damaged console. Commander, we're receiving reports from across the fleet. The space creatures are multiplying faster than we can remove them. They're eating through our hull plating and life support systems. And the asteroids? Still coming, sir. Our sensors show at least 50 more large rocks on intercept courses. The humans have turned the entire asteroid belt into a weapon. Vex felt something he had never experienced in his long military career: complete helplessness. The Krovar way of war was simple. Arrive with overwhelming force, destroy all resistance, take what you want. But these humans had changed the very nature of battle itself. On the human ships, Jake Morrison was coordinating the final phase of the operation. Colonel Brooks, what's the status of the Krovar command ship? Surrounded and helpless, Captain. My Marines have boarding pods ready, but I don't think we'll need them. Listen to this. Brooks patched through the Krovar internal communications. The alien voices were filled with panic and confusion. Commander, the ship's biological systems are failing. Life support down to 30%. Hull breach on Deck 7.
The walls are dissolving.
Dr. Amy Foster monitored the biological weapon from her laboratory. Captain, the space organisms are working even better than we hoped. They're not just eating the Krovar ships, they're communicating with each other and coordinating their attacks. Communicating how? Jake asked. Chemical signals. It's like they're forming a collective intelligence across the entire fleet. Each organism learns what works best against Krovar technology and shares that information with all the others. Elder Zephyr's voice came through the communication system. Captain Morrison, this is incredible. Your species has turned simple life forms into a coordinated weapon. How did you know this would work? Jake smiled. Elder Zephyr, on Earth we have creatures called ants. Individually, they're tiny and weak. But working together, they can defeat animals thousands of times larger. We just applied the same principle to space. The breakthrough moment came when Sergeant Tony Martinez's team successfully boarded the Krovar flagship. Fighting through corridors filled with toxic gases and failing life support, the Marines reached the bridge where Supreme Commander Vex was making his final stand. Humans. Vex roared as the Marines burst through the door. You cannot defeat the Krovar. We are the masters of the galaxy. Martinez looked around the bridge, noting the sparking consoles, the failing lights, and the panic in the alien crew's eyes. Doesn't look like it from here. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Vex continued. We have enslaved entire species. Yeah, well, Martinez replied. You never met humans before. We're the species that conquered our own planet. The final blow came not from weapons or violence, but from something the Krovar had never encountered. Strategic deception on a massive scale. Lisa Chen, working with captured Krovar communication equipment, began broadcasting fake intelligence throughout their fleet. Attention all Krovar vessels, she announced, using perfect mimicry of their command protocols. This is fleet intelligence. We have detected massive human reinforcements approaching from multiple star systems. Estimated arrival, 2 hours. Recommended action, immediate withdrawal. The false intelligence spread through the Krovar fleet like wildfire. Already demoralized by their impossible defeat, the alien crews began to believe they were facing not just 5 human ships, but an entire invasion force. Multiple fleets? Vex asked his intelligence officer. How many humans are there? The officer studying the fake reports went pale. According to these signals, sir, we're facing coordinated attacks from dozens of human fleets. They've surrounded our entire task force. What the Krovar didn't understand was that humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of making small forces appear larger than they were. From ancient generals using torches to make their armies look huge, to modern military deception tactics, humanity had learned to turn perception into reality. Commander, his tactical officer reported, we're receiving withdrawal orders from the hegemony. High Command wants all remaining ships to retreat immediately. Vex stared at the communication, unable to believe what he was reading. For the first time in Krovar history, the hegemony was ordering a retreat not because of losses but because of fear. Captain Morrison opened a communication channel to the entire Krovar fleet. Supreme Commander Vex, this is your final warning. Leave this system now and spread the word to your empire. The galaxy has new protectors. What do you want from us? Vex asked, his voice hollow with defeat. Nothing. We want you to leave peaceful species alone. Find some other way to live that doesn't involve conquering and killing innocent people. And if we refuse? Jake Morrison's smile was not pleasant. Then you'll discover that what you've seen today was just a small sample of human creativity. We're the species that learned to survive on a planet that was constantly trying to kill us. Do you really want to find out what we can do when we're actually trying to hurt someone? The threat was clear, but what truly terrified Vex was the casual way the human captain delivered it. These weren't boastful warriors making empty threats. These were practical problem solvers who had just demonstrated their ability to turn any situation to their advantage. We will leave, Vex finally said. But this isn't over. The Krovar have long memories. So do humans, Colonel Brooks replied. The difference is we learn from our experiences. Every time you face us, we'll be better prepared. As the surviving Krovar ships limped away from the system, Elder Zephyr addressed the human fleet. Captain Morrison, how can we ever thank you? You have saved not just our species, but given hope to every peaceful race in the galaxy. You can thank us by rebuilding, Jake replied, and by helping us create something new, an alliance of species dedicated to protecting each other. Dr. Amy Foster had been working with Villani scientists throughout the battle. Elder Zephyr, your biotechnology combined with human engineering could revolutionize space travel. We could create ships that heal themselves, weapons that only target aggressors, and life support systems that work anywhere. And in return, the alien asked, we protect you. All of you. Every peaceful species in the galaxy now has someone to call when bullies like the Krovar show up. 3 days later, Admiral Patricia Hayes arrived with a full human battle fleet. She found the Villani system completely under human control, with Elder Zephyr's people already beginning to rebuild their floating cities. Captain Morrison, the Admiral said as she reviewed the battle reports, you do realize what you've done here? Hopefully saved some lives, Admiral. You've announced to the entire galaxy that humanity is now a major power. Every species out there is going to want to know more about us. Jake looked out at the stars, where human ships now patrolled alongside Villani vessels. Good. It's time the galaxy met a species that fights for something other than conquest. Elder Zephyr's voice came through the ship's communication system. Admiral Hayes, we have received over 100 distress calls from other species since word of our rescue spread. They all asked the same question. Will the humans help us too? Admiral Hayes looked at Captain Morrison, who nodded. Tell them yes, she replied. Tell them that Earth has heard their call, and help is on the way. As the human fleet prepared to answer the distress calls of species across the galaxy, Jake Morrison realized that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They had proven that the galaxy's most dangerous predators could also be its greatest protectors. The age of the Krovar was ending. The age of humanity had begun, and across the galaxy, peaceful species looked to the stars with hope for the first time in millennia, knowing that somewhere out there, the Deathworlders were coming to help.